Well, a very good afternoon. I hope you're all well and having a good week. It's so lovely, and I'm sure you're having the same now of talking to real life, living, breathing, eating, sleeping clients for the first time for what seems like a long time, and looking forward instead of backwards, which is just lovely. I know we've got a long way to go, and I appreciate that, but we're definitely making progress, which is just lovely. So, just like we talked about our three favorite hotels in this part of the world, in the Chilterns, just west of London, we're going to take a little trip to the Cotswolds today and share three of our favorite hotels, but with a bit of an added bonus as well. So let me just do a screen share here. Seems to be working. And we can start to talk about some of the delights of the Cotswolds. So as always, we work really closely with all of these hotels, and there are a whole number across the Cotswolds, obviously, from which to choose, and we will happily recommend more than just the ones that we're sharing with you today. But my plan is to maybe share some information about hotels that you might not have used or considered in the past. Two of them particularly have been really upgraded and renovated over the last few years, and they just are not recognizable from what they were before, in a good way, in a very good way. So we're starting off with CALCOT MANOR. Now, CALCOT actually became a hotel in 1984, but it has the most phenomenal history. And you know me by now, I think that I love my history. It goes back 700 years, which is quite extraordinary. It was, as in so many cases, it was owned by the church, and then Henry VIII came along and gave it to some of his favourites, and it was then in private ownership for generations by the Escort family, and then, as I say, it became a hotel in 1984, and it was always a sort of good hotel, but not spectacular, if I'm honest. It's one that I know very well because it's about 4 miles from where my parents live. So I visited a lot, but certainly over the last few years, it has really come into its own. It's under new leadership. My parents celebrated their golden wedding anniversary there, actually, and it's absolutely stunning. The grounds are just beautiful. And it's in a great, absolutely perfect location, which we'll have a little look at. The spa, I was going to say, it's probably one of my favourite spas, but then we're going to look at two others that are my favourite spas as well. So it really is, it's a stunning spa, and it's definitely well worth even a 24-hour stop off, maybe, if you've got clients moving down from London and Hampshire, maybe down into Devon and Cornwall, a 24-hour stopover at CALCOT just to relax in the spa would be a wonderful thing to do. The food is absolutely superb. They're both fine dining, and then they've got the Gunstool Inn, which is a good old classic Cotswold country pub, basically, which is all part of the hotel. Now, what CALCOT do really, really well is combine the lovely feeling of privacy and seclusion if you've got a couple who just want something a little bit quieter and somewhere lovely to stay. But equally, they are hugely welcoming for families. So if you have clients traveling with children of any age, we'd certainly recommend CALCOT. I mean, I love the Royal Crescent in Bath, for example, but they don't allow children into their spa and things like that. CALCOT really do go out of their way to make children feel welcome without disturbing those of us without children. So it's a great combination. And location-wise, as I say, it's about 4 miles from Tetbury, so sort of the southern side of the Cotswolds. And one of our favourite, and Debbie, I think you're with us today, one of our favourite experiences for many clients is a wonderful trip to Chavenage House, which we shared with you a few weeks ago, and the glorious old war market town of Tetbury, which is, you can see here in the picture. It's right on the doorstep, and just to have a potter around Tetbury is beautiful. It's got a fabulously named hotel called the Snooty Fox, where you can go and have an afternoon tea or a cocktail, and it is the centre of the universe in the Cotswolds as far as antiques are concerned. And we've got a couple of fabulous antiques experts if you've got clients who are interested. Highgrove, which is obviously Prince Charles's home, and it's quite funny actually that by some in Tetbury, Charles is seen as the Lord of the Manor over the whole town as well, which is quite fun. And the Highgrove shop sells all sorts of fabulous things, which is in Tetbury, but we'll happily book a tour of the gardens of Highgrove, because you may well be aware that Prince Charles is very enthusiastic about his gardening and sustainability and conservation and so on. And I mean, I haven't been down actually this year for obvious reasons, but at this time of year, the colours will be absolutely magnificent. So well worth a visit. And Western Burt, which is about 2 miles from Highgrove, has the most incredible arboretum. It's one of the biggest collections of trees in the country, and you can imagine, particularly in autumn, or sorry, fall, as you would call it, it's incredible, and they do these fabulous illuminated tours of the arboretum. And Bath and Cheltenham are probably 35-40 minutes away from CALCOT, so it's a great central location, and but a great place to go back to after a busy day exploring, because it's wonderfully relaxing. Now, style-wise, as you can see from these pictures, it's really quite classic. They've kept a lot of the beautiful old features in the barn and so on, but the bedrooms are this beautifully classic style, and they have obviously sort of typical rooms, but lots of rooms where there are adjoining bedrooms for the little ones and the parents and so on. And a couple of the suites have these private hot tubs, which is lovely, isn't it? So as you can see, it's beautiful. And I hope that picture explains why I say the spa is quite extraordinary. It really is just lovely, and that. The picture on the top right there, that's inside the Gunstall Inn, so that's their country pub that they have on site. So it's yeah, really rather lovely. Now, the LYGON Arms has a very different history to CALCOT. It's about the same age, about 700 years old, although there are some dates back to the Domesday Book. But we don't have much information about that because it was owned by the French for 200 or 300 years. But the LYGON used to be owned, and some of you may well be aware of this, used to be owned by the Savoy quite a few years ago now, probably 20 odd years ago. And oh, sorry, Debbie. Let me see if I turn this up. I don't know if anyone else is having difficulty hearing me. So this is the LYGON Arms. So yes, it was owned by the Savoy Group and was beautiful. I certainly remember going there many moons ago. And then, thank you, Brian. And then they sold it when the Mayborn Group took over the part of the group and so on, and the Savoy separated out. And it really did sort of fade quite badly. It was so sad to see such a beautiful hotel fall because of a lack of love and a lack of TLC. Anyway, it's now owned by the Iconic Collection and is now well and truly happily restored to oh, I'm sorry about this with the volume. I don't know quite what's going on with that. I will speak loudly and clearly, and hopefully you'll be able to hear me. So yes, it is now restored to its former glory. It is absolutely beautiful and is the sort of very old traditional part of the Iconic Collection. So as I say, it dates back 700 years and was known as, it's had a whole number of different names, but was known as the White Hart during King Richard II's reign in the 14th century, and was a fabulous, perfect location for a stopping point to water the horses, as they used to have to do back then. And good old Oliver Cromwell pops up yet again. He does stay absolutely everywhere. But before he managed to make his mark, Charles I had stayed there, and when he was still obviously on the throne, but then he was being pushed back. Oliver Cromwell stayed there, and they both have rooms named after them. But it's quite interesting that King Charles has the Charles I suite, while Oliver Cromwell only has a room. I think they might be trying to give a message out there. But Oliver Cromwell does seem to get to all of the best places, doesn't he? So facilities-wise, I mean, the spa is stunning. I think CALCOT might have the edge, but don't quote me on that. But it is a beautiful spa with all of the treatments. And the lovely thing about the LYGON is that there's out the back is this beautiful courtyard area. So perfect for alfresco dining and afternoon tea and that sort of thing. And it's surrounded by a whole number of the rooms. So these beautiful courtyard rooms, which are great if people don't want to be in the main house and have to go up and down stairs. Because the challenge of staying in a 700-year-old coaching inn is that the stairs can be a bit wonky, they're a bit old, and the floors and so on, floorboards and so on in some of the rooms are quite wonky as well. So if you've got somebody who maybe isn't 100% steady on their feet, then the courtyard rooms are probably a better option. But it really is. Let me show you some of the. I'll show you some of the pictures first. So you can see from these pictures. I mean, it's so fabulous and old with all the wooden wall panellings and so on. It really is just lovely. And on the bottom left there, that's the courtyard that I was talking about. So lovely options for dining inside and outside. But going back, because I got a bit excited there, going back to location, it's almost the opposite end of the Cotswolds. So we're right up in the north of the Cotswolds now, right in the centre of Broadway, which if you've ever been, you'll know is the most beautiful little Cotswolds village. Again, with some, it's much smaller than Tetbury, but some beautiful little antique shops and well worth wandering around. And that picture you can see is the Broadway Tower. It's an ideal location from which to jump on a bike or get in a car or just put your walking boots on and head out, all of which we will provide guides for, and if they want to go on their own, we'll just give them a highly detailed map and directions, and the essential booking at a lovely traditional English pub for lunch. But it really is a fabulous place just to go touring. If you've got clients who are big gardens fans, I mean, the Cotswolds is the perfect place to be, but Kiftsgate and Hidcote are real favourites. And we can arrange private tours with the garden designers themselves. So that's rather special. And Cheltenham and Stratford are probably 20 minutes or so away. You may remember when we talked about Stratford that there aren't really many fabulous hotels in and around the town, which is bizarre, really. So we'd always recommend one of the Broadway hotels if you've got clients visiting Stratford. So it's perfectly located for seeing all sorts of wonderful parts of the Cotswolds. Now, THYME is a really interesting hotel if you haven't come across it before. They spent years and years developing this entire concept of THYME, because as they describe it, it is a village within a village. It's based on an old medieval estate, and they've spent years restoring all of the outbuildings and so on, a lot of which now either are houses and cottages, so accommodation for people to stay in, or these beautiful barns where they can have dinner, and there are function rooms and so on. But it really is quite extraordinary, and it's a fabulous concept, and it's all about sustainability and this connection to the land, to the seasons, and to nature. And the father of Karen, who designed it, is very much into sustainability, and he's an engineer and so on, and he has ensured that all of the heating is it's all underfloor and so on, but it's all done sustainably. So they really do practice what they preach, which is fantastic. And they really do follow that through in terms of the land and what they serve and so on. So the Meadow Spa is all these beautiful organic treatments and so on. They pride themselves on. Actually, we should have shared a map with you. Sorry, but just to get a feel, there's a beautiful cookery school, which is really all about making the most of the land and what the land provides. It's really good, good sustainable stuff, and most of the products obviously come from the kitchen gardens and so on. And they've got the most amazing shop that sells. I mean, you can obviously buy the things online, but all of the designs and so on are all around this historical, sustainable, nature-loving environment. It's not to everybody's taste, to be honest with you. Excuse me. If you want to be in a traditional hotel environment, then I certainly wouldn't recommend THYME. But if you want to, if your guests are looking for something a little bit different, and maybe where they feel that they've got a bit more independence, it's somewhere that you'd be perfectly comfortable actually not leaving because there's so much to do. And again, they've got the country pub, although the Swan, which is fabulous. It hasn't reopened yet, and we haven't been told when it is reopening, but the accommodation, certainly in the outlying buildings, is all available, and the food is fabulous, and the spa is wonderful. So a very different style, as you'll see in a bit. Now, two of the old classics of the Cotswolds Burford and Bibury with the beautiful trout stream and so on, and all those iconic pictures. Well, they're just down the road. They're about 10 minutes or so from THYME. Continuing the sort of organic and foodie type field. Dalesford is probably about half an hour or so away, because we're over on the sort of east side of the Cotswolds now, and equally Oxford and Blenheim probably 30 minutes or so away. So it's a great location because it's sort of in the middle on the west, and you've got things all the way around to go and see. So it's certainly enough to fill up your itinerary. And as you can see, it's a beautiful style of room, a bit more countrified than CALCOT, and obviously not. They haven't made quite so much of the history as the LYGON, but it's a very calming, beautiful environment, and I do love that bar. Somebody really had fun designing that bar, and it's a bit more fun in the evening when there are more people in it, but you can get the picture of what it's like. It's fabulous. Now, those are 3 hotels you may or may not have heard of. You probably have, but you may not have heard about this one, and we just had to share this with you because it's certainly not to everybody's taste, but for those who are into their sort of slightly rock and roll, into their art, and into being utterly wowed when they walk into somewhere, then OAKHOUSE #1 is the place to go. It's an extraordinary find, and I couldn't describe any better. It's glorious. When Alice arrived in Wonderland and so on. I mean, designer opulence collides with creature comforts, art, creativity, rock and roll, and inspiration drips the walls. But it's still a country house. And from the outside, we don't show you any pictures of the outside because it just looks like a really normal but beautiful Cotswold stone old house. But you open the doors and you are hit with this incredible colour. I mean, there are original Andy Warhols in the main hall as you go in. So it's tiny, as you can see, but the rooms are the 3 suites are large. I mean, there's lots of room, but there are only 3 of them. And a beautiful garden, and it's right in the centre of Tetbury. So it's if you've got again guests who want to be in a bit of luxury but in the middle of the town, then the OAKHOUSE is perfect. And Gary Kennedy, who owns it, and his partner Natalie are absolute characters in their own right. They basically retired. They went travelling. They both love their art and all that sort of thing. And they collected all sorts of weird and wonderful things on their travels. They moved to this house and decided that they wanted a bit of a project. And so they are very much part of the whole environment. It's communal dining at breakfast. I mean, obviously there are only 6 of you, but your guest could be sitting next to a member of the Stereophonics or a member of the royal family or some famous actress. I mean, they really have had everybody to go and stay. Apparently, the organisers of the Brits Awards, which is a big music award thing over here, recommended it as one of their preferred choices. So it's certainly got the glitz and the glamour, and here you can see just part of it. I mean, it has 5-star reviews, not only for the accommodation but for the food and the hospitality and so on. It's extraordinary. It really is just wonderful and amazing to think actually that it's in such a sort of quaint little market town like like Tetbury. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, Oak House number 1, it's called. So we look after quite a few of their guests as well, who are going off exploring, which is always lots of fun, and we love hearing the stories about the hospitality and so on. So there are 4 of our choices for the Cotswolds. We've tried to find different styles and something for everybody, depending on what your clients are looking for. As I said, you know, there's the Royal Crescent and the Gainsborough Bath Spa in Bath, which are absolutely stunning. We didn't really have time to do Watley Manor. I think we'll have to do another focus on food in the Cotswolds and talk about Watley Manor. And the fish and Dormy House and so on in Broadway. There are some really fabulous options and beautiful restaurants to go alongside. So we will happily recommend. But are there any questions? Is there anything else that we can share? I've seen a few. Oh, thank you, Lisa. You shared. Oh, Debbie, you stayed in the room where Liz Taylor and Richard Burton stayed. Yes, because apparently they hid there in the height of their affair when they were being chased around the world by the paparazzi. So yes, it's certainly got an incredible history. So, well, I hope you've enjoyed our little tour around the Cotswolds. We are putting together a whole schedule of the future tea and training events, so that you can plan a bit in advance and you know what's coming up and what you don't want to miss. Please, if you do have to miss them for whatever reason, please just let us know, and we will. I'm either happy to run an additional episode for you or just do a one-on-one, but obviously, as you know, Lisa will send out the recording and so on. So we're just working on that plan. You'll either have it by the end of the week or on Monday at the latest, and then you can schedule them into your diary. But we're going to carry on every Wednesday afternoon. And I have to say, we've had some really lovely emails from some of you who've been joining us, and your feedback is hugely appreciated, and it really is just lovely to know that we've helped a little bit, not only by sharing happy things rather than cancellations, but also by helping you to add to your knowledge of our beautiful country that we love so much. So we really appreciate your notes. Thank you very much. And I hope you have a fabulous rest of the week. We're going to have a heat wave here in England, which we're very excited about because it's been a bit miserable. So I'm off to the Welsh seaside this weekend. So look out for Humphreys TV next week, and you'll see. Thank you, Debbie. And you'll see some Welsh countryside. But this week on Friday, I visited the beautiful city of Wells, the smallest city in England, and we got some fabulous footage of the cathedral and the town and the city and so on. So I hope you enjoy that. So that's on Friday, but we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Thanks so much. Bye.